Hello everyone. Do you know where the word hysteria comes from? It comes from the Greek word for the womb, hystera. Welcome to the Curious channel, which features book reviews, general knowledge, ways to earn money online, and more. Today, I will walk you through gender-based psychiatry and the long history of the word hysteria. Coming up next on the Curious Tube.
The word hysteria originates from the Greek word for uterus, hystera. This was a condition thought to be exclusive to women, sending them uncontrollably and neurotically insane owing to a dysfunction of the uterus, the removal of which is still called a hysterectomy, the first mental disorder attributable to women, and for which we find an accurate description since the 2nd millennium BC, is undoubtedly hysteria. The first description referring to the ancient Egyptians dates to 1900 BC, Kahan Papyrus, and identifies the cause of hysterical disorders in spontaneous uterus movement within the female body. In the Eber Papyrus, 1600 BC, the oldest medical document containing references to depressive syndromes, traditional symptoms of hysteria were described as tonic-clonic seizures and the sense of suffocation and imminent death, which is Freud's globus hystericus. We also find indications of the therapeutic measures to be taken depending on the position of the uterus, which must be forced to return to its natural position. If the uterus had moved upwards, this could be done by placing malodorous and acrid substances near the woman's mouth and nostrils, while scented ones were placed near her vagina. On the contrary, if the uterus had lowered, the document recommends placing the acrid substances near her vagina and the perfumed ones near her mouth and nostrils.
According to Greek mythology, the experience of hysteria was at the base of the birth of psychiatry. The Argonaut Melampus, a physician, is considered its founder. He placated the revolt of Argos virgins who refused to honor the phallus and fled to the mountains, their behavior being taken for madness. Melampus cured these women with hellebore and then urged them to join carnally with young and strong men. They were healed and recovered their wits. Melampus spoke of the women's madness as derived from their uterus being poisoned by venomous humors, due to a lack of orgasms and uterine melancholy. Thus arose the idea of a female madness related to the lack of a normal sexual life. Plato, in Timaeus, argues that the uterus is sad and unfortunate when it does not join with the male and does not give rise to a new birth. And Aristotle and Hippocrates were of the same opinion. The Euripides myth says that a collective way of curing, or, if we prefer, preventing, melancholy of the uterus is represented by the Dionysian experience of the Maenads, who reached catharsis through wine and orgies. Women suffering from hysteria could be released from the anxiety that characterizes this condition by participating in the Maenad experience. Trance status guided and cured by the satyr, the priest of Dionysus, contributed to solving the conflict related to sexuality, typical of hysteria disease. Hippocrates, 5th century BC, is the first to use the term hysteria. Indeed, he also believes that the cause of this disease lies in the movement of the uterus, hysteron. The Greek physician provides a good description of hysteria, which is clearly distinguished from epilepsy. He emphasizes the difference between the compulsive movements of epilepsy, caused by a disorder of the brain, and those of hysteria due to the abnormal movements of the uterus and the body. Then, he resumes the idea of a restless and migratory uterus and identifies the cause of the indisposition as poisonous stagnant humors which, due to an inadequate sexual life, have never been expelled. He asserts that a woman's body is physiologically cold and wet and hence prone to putrefaction of the humors.
For this reason, the uterus is prone to get sick, especially if it is deprived of the benefits arising from sex and procreation, which, widening a woman's canals, promote the cleansing of the body. And he goes further, especially in virgins, widows, single, or sterile women. This bad uterus, since it is not satisfied, not only produces toxic fumes but also takes to wandering around the body, causing various kinds of disorders such as anxiety, sense of suffocation, tremors, sometimes even convulsions and paralysis. For this reason, he suggests that even widows and unmarried women should get married and live a satisfactory sexual life within the bounds of marriage. However, when the disease is recognized, affected women are advised not only to partake in sexual activity, but also to cure themselves with acrid or fragrant fumigation of the face and genitals, to push the uterus back to its natural place inside the body. Aulus Cornelius Celsus, 1st century BC, gives a good and accurate clinical description of hysterical symptoms. In De Re Medica Celsus, he wrote in females, a violent disease also arises in the womb, and, next to the stomach, this part is most sympathetically affected or most sympathetically affects the rest of the system. Sometimes also, it so completely destroys the senses that on occasions the patient falls, as if in epilepsy. This case, however, differs in that the eyes are not turned, nor does froth issue forth, nor are there any convulsions, there is only a deep sleep.
After the fall of the Roman Empire, Greek-Roman medical culture had its new epicenter in Byzantium, where physicians inherited Galen's science without making any significant innovations. The most famous was Paul of Aegina, 625,690 AD. Sometime before, Bishop Nestorius, who took refuge in the Middle East in an area between today's Iraq and Egypt, had brought with him his knowledge of classical science, contributing to the spread of Greek-Roman medicine in these areas. The political events of the early Middle Ages caused a rupture between Christian Europe, with its Octoritas culture, in the hands of just a few scholars, and the Middle East of the caliphs, where thanks to a climate of tolerance and cultural ferment, the texts of Hippocrates and Galen were translated and commented on in Arabic, becoming widespread and well-known. In this context, two great scientists carry out their work, the Persian Avicenna, 980,137, and the Andalusian Jew Maimonides, 135,124. Thanks to them, the legacy of Hippocrates and Galen is not only maintained, but spreads throughout Europe. The Reconquista of Spain, 718,149, and new contacts with the Near East bring important cultural exchanges. Avicenna's Canon of Medicine and Galen's Corpus are diffused along with the Latin translations ascribed to Gerard of Cremona, while Maimonides' texts are disseminated in the Jewish world, along with other basic medical texts, thanks to translations by the Ibn Tibbon family, 13th, 14th centuries. In particular, the medical schools of Salerno and Montpellier were vehicles for the dissemination of these works. But we cannot talk about women health in the Middle Ages without citing Trotula de Ruggiero from Salerno, 11th century. While as a woman she could never become a magister, Trotula is considered the first female doctor in Christian Europe. She belonged to the ranks of famous women active in the Salerno school but discredited, among others, by Arnaldus of Villanova, called Senatrix Salernitana. Trotula was an expert in women diseases and disorders. Recognizing women as being more vulnerable than men, she explained how the suffering related to gynecological diseases was intimate. Women often, out of shame, do not reveal their troubles to the doctor. Her best-known work, De Passionibus Mulierum in et Postpartum, deals female problems, including hysteria. Faithful to the teachings of Hippocrates, Trotula was devoted to the study of women diseases, of which she tried to capture the secrets, without being influenced by the prejudices and morals of her time, also giving advice on how to placate sexual desire. In her work, abstinence is seen as a cause of illness, and she recommends sedative remedies like musk oil or mint.
The mainstream view of the time is one in which the woman is a physically and theologically inferior being, an idea that has its roots in the Aristotelian concept of male superiority. St. Thomas Aquinas, 125,127 for Summa Theologica. Aristotle's assertions that the woman is a failed man. The inferiority of women is considered a consequence of sin, and the solutions offered by St. Thomas' reflection leave no doubt about what will overturn the relationship between women and Christianity. The concept of defective creature is just the beginning. In question 117, Article 3, addressing the possibility that the human soul can change the substance, St. Thomas says that some old women are evil-minded. They gaze on children in a poisonous and evil way, and demons, with whom the witches enter into agreements, interacting through their eyes. The idea of a woman witch, which we shall call the demonological vision, almost becomes insuperable. Preachers disclose the Old Testament's condemnation of wizards and necromancers, and the fear of witches spreads in the collective imagination of the European population. The ecclesiastical authorities try to impose celibacy and chastity on the clergy, and St. Thomas' theological descriptions regarding woman's inferiority are, perhaps, the start of a misogynistic crusade in the late Middle Ages. From the 13th century onwards, the struggle with heresy assumes a political connotation. The Church aims at unifying Europe under its banner. So breviaries become manuals of the Inquisition, and many manifestations of mental illness are seen as obscene bonds between women and the devil. Hysterical women are subjected to exorcism. The cause of their problem is found in a demonic presence. If in early Christianity, exorcism was considered a cure but not a punishment, In the late Middle Ages, it becomes a punishment, and hysteria is confused with sorcery. Political and religious status quo in Europe is threatened by the first humanist ideas, and the Church responds by intensifying inquisitions. The apogee is reached in 1484 with the Summis Desiderantes Effectibus, Innocent VIII's bull, which confirms the witch hunt and an obligation to punish, imprison and correct heretics. The German Dominicans Heinrich Instetter Kramer and Jacob Sprenger are accredited with the publication of the famous Hammer of Witches, the Malleus Maleficarum. Although not an official church manual, it takes on an official tone due to the inclusion of the papal bull within the text. It is interesting to note that the title itself includes signs of misogyny. Maleficarum as witches, not Maleficorum as wizards, as if to say evil is female, evil origins from women. The devil is everywhere in these pages. He makes men sterile, kills children, causes famine and pestilence, and all this with the help of witches. The compilers of the manual are familiar with the medicine of the age, and they investigate the relationship between sorcery and human temperaments. Their descriptions rival those contained in the best psychopathology manuals. The text is divided into 3 parts and aims at proving the existence of demons and witches, explaining how to find and punish sorcery. But what has this to do with women's health? It is quite simple. If a physician cannot identify the cause of a disease, it means that it is procured by the devil. The Inquisitor finds sin in mental illness because, he says, the devil is a great expert of human nature and may interfere more effectively with a person susceptible to melancholy or hysteria. Hysteria is considered a woman's disease, and who more than women are prone to melancholy. This disease is the basis of female delirium. The woman feels persecuted, and the devil himself is the cause of this mal de vivre, which deprives the women of confession and forgiveness, leading them to commit suicide. Obviously, the women most affected are elderly and single. In most cases, they have already been in mourning or victims of violence. Sorcery becomes the scapegoat for every calamity, and etymological explanations are also provided. For Sprenger and Kramer, the Latin word fomina is formed from fee and minus, that is, who has less faith. This text is the worst condemnation of depressive illness and women to be found throughout the course of Western history. Until the 18th century, thousands of innocent women were put to death on the basis of evidence or confessions obtained through torture.
Thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more videos from this channel. If you knew of any useful information on this topic, let me know in the comments below. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button and notifications icon for more useful information and tips from the Curious Tube.